from both of these teams. Bottom lane, the target here from Najin Sword, and the middle, the target from SKT. But that meant that they get the Shen as their opening pick, which definitely changes the game. They have that global presence up top. They can jump to the fight pretty quickly.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Najin Sword as a team has been known to give up Shen. When they played versus Gambit, Darien is a very renowned Shen player, but they gave it to him twice in that series. So we know that Expression is very confident in playing against Shen. He definitely has some counter picks in his belt, such as that Diana. Picking up Corki and Elise, very standard picks. We were a little bit worried about Watch picking up that Nunu again, but it seems he's gone for that very standard meta Elise pick. I'm actually very happy to see that.
Yeah, I feel like Watch is kind of the hidden weapon here for Najin Sword because they had him on Nunu 2 times against Gambit. Oh! The lock-in for the carry top laner here.
I love that pick. Expression is renowned for his Jax. Back when he was like, when Mac Nunu would tout him as like the best top laner that nobody knows about, everyone knew Expression Jax was amazing. And Jax versus Shen, if you can make it out early game, if you can get your trifecta of items, you can make it to late game and you will just destroy Shen in the 1v1.
Oh.
Not to mention you can cancel his TP with your E. Faker picking up the Ahri. What do you think about that?
Faker does get one of the assassins that he's very much at home on. He'll be rushing that Deathfire Grass and then looking to kill supports. But the support he's going to go after here, Leona, extremely tanky. What do you think about the bottom lane now for Najin Sword? Now that they have a Leona, will they be looking for that 1 versus 2 situation, or would they rather go for that kill lane in the 2 versus 2 heads up?
I think going off of their momentum from their series versus Gambit, Najin Sword is not going to be afraid to go into that 2v2. Corki Leona is a very high damage, high kill potential lane. Corki's E can instantly re-proc Leona's passive and just get massive damage off if she can land a stun. So I really expect them to just be going into that lane head on and just trying to make plays to carry the game like they did before.
Kind of a classic matchup here. Corki and Leona go together so well. And that's going to mean that they're going to look for Jax versus Shen in lane. How do the first few levels match up versus that?
So basically, Jax versus Shen. Shen will just poke you for free early game. Jax can't really go aggressive because Shen can just taunt him and fight inside the creep wave and come out ahead. All Jax really has to do is make it through the early game, get to level 6, and reach that sweet spot where he can just start bullying Shen up, and that's all he needs.
And with both junglers on early game play-making junglers, I expect some good action up in that top lane.
It's going to be a good one, guys. That's for sure. Okay, guys, while the team's loading into that first game of this best of 5, let's see who you guys at home were thinking are going to win this series. I can tell you now, according to lolesports.com, 72% of you think that SKT-T1 will be playing for the Summoners Cup next week at the Staples Center. Our analysts all said the same as well.
Everybody's really believing in SKT after seeing how they performed in the group stages and in the quarterfinals. It's hard to fault them.
Well, before we get into the game, I'd like to say thank you to Voyboy for joining us here. He'll be back a little bit later on between the games to break down all those picks again. So thank you very much, Voyboy. Voyboy, we'll see you a little bit later. But for us now, we're going to jump into the game. It is game number 1 here between SK Telecom T1 and Najin Black Sword. This is for a spot for the championship game. First semi-final, first game, a lot on the line here between these two teams. I can't look past the fact that Faker somehow managed to get Ahri again, though, Kobe. I have to say, 4 wins out of 4 for him on that so far. He's been incredible.
I think that means the early game for this duo, Corki and Leona, is going to be even more important. Because if Leona can actually get some HP and be tanky, that's 1 less target for Faker to try and pick out.
Something else we definitely have to keep our eyes on is this dual lane of Prey and Kayn. It's the Corki Leona that we actually seen Fnatic pull out during the group stages here at Worlds, and it worked very well for them. SKT, with a very deep invade, they're going to be doing that sort of traditional red buff warding exposition, I don't know, going on a whole hike, and it's working out for them. Sword, on the other hand, getting a very deep ward. They'll try to find those lane matchups, like Voyboy was talking about, potentially going for those 2v2s very early on.
Yeah, right. We'll have to see. A little bit of a pause here at the start of things. Well, that should get sorted here in just a moment, and we can get back underway. It gives it a little bit more time to break down exactly what we're going to be seeing at this stage of the game. As you said, a lot of champions in there. I mean, SKT only lost 1 game so far, so it's easy to call out the one that he's lost almost, which funnily enough was on Gragas, which is seen on the other side. But in terms of the game as a whole, I mean, best of 5 series, we heard it and we've seen it already from over in Korea that SKT aren't the best team when it comes to best of 5s in the early games in those series.
Right. Usually dropping, 1 or maybe 2 at the very beginning here. It'll be interesting if they actually do, because right now they have a team comp that they're fairly comfortable with. So if they do end up dropping it, it's going to be because Jax and Corki got really fed.
Yeah, it's definitely something that Sword want to make happen for them. The one thing that really stood out for me during the picks and bans was that Ahri was the second last pick for SKT. It seemed like every other pick was a higher priority in these teams' minds. Shen, Elise, Corki were all picked up before Ahri, and that's a little bit against the grain of what we've seen elsewhere in the tournament.
Faker is such a versatile player. He literally has one of the biggest champion pools of any mid laners. Yeah, exactly. So leaving that mid lane pick till the end, I think, is a pretty solid strategy for SKT. Meanwhile, the mid lane for Najin Sword is going to be that Gragas that you mentioned. On the red side, Gragas has a very high potential for stealing away Barons. So even if Najin Sword do get behind in that mid game, and SKT go for a Baron, they've got that combo that they can actually steal it away with pretty easily.
Okay, guys, while we get this a little bit sorted out here, we're going to send things over to the analyst desk to break things down just that little bit more whilst we get ready.
All right, guys, thank you very much. And actually, what we wanted to talk about was Quickshot was just touching on there. Is the 8th pick, Ahri, also coming out of the side of Najin, was mid-bans as well. Freak, I know you wanted to touch on this first, and then Monty, take it away.
Yeah, so I actually, in theory, I really like what Najin Sword did, because anytime you let a champion get this deep, but yet got to counterpick all the lanes, it means you came in with a plan. Right? They left Shen up for first pick. It's a pretty obvious first pick. They said, well, Expression plays Jackson. Voyboy talked about that matchup. Hit level 6, win the matchup, no big deal. And again, with the mid lane, they're like, we know you're going to go for Ahri. We're saving our last pick, Gragas, there to make sure we get the counter pick. And down the line, I think Sword planned out those picks. You can argue if they were the right picks, but they came in with a plan.
It's also striking because typically when we see SK Telecom play, they put a very high priority on first picking mids and junglers, typically. And so to have them as the last 2 picks here is really uncharacteristic of this team. And I think that shows that they really were waiting to see what was going to happen from Najin Sword to see if there would be that last pick. Of course, the last pick mid, much more common in a region like EU.
Yeah.
At the same time, though, they might have actually caught Najin Black Sword off guard. Them predicting the first pick Ahri, as Monty said, is the normal trend over there. First picking Shen with only 1 assassin left means it's really hard for an assassin lane to play mid against the Shen ulti coming in later. Basically nullifies Ahri as a tool for them, which basically gives them a free Ahri anyway. So I think the Shen pick was a really solid pick. And at the same time, yeah, they got counter lanes, but it's going to be really hard with playing full engage into a Shen.
I think it was definitely a smart choice to go for the early Shen, but this is actually something that happened very directly by this team against Gamma Bears, where their Shen and Ahri were both open, and they're like, actually, we're going to go Shen first. So Sword doing the research, they would have at least seen that as a likely possibility, but you're right that mid lane's going to be difficult.
And just to touch on the peculiar Leona pick that we haven't seen before from Najin Black Sword, this is actually a really volatile 2v2 lane, as you can tell, just because of it's a kill lane for Leona. But at the same time, pre-6 minutes, Lee Sin is the best early skirmishing jungler to counter gank. Like, if Leona goes in, she's not getting out. If Lee Sin's there to safeguard to the Zyra or something, then Leona's dead. And past 6 minutes, they have Shen. So it's actually in SKT's favor to 2v2 that lane if they can play it correctly. If they can bait Leona in, or if they can bait her in with Shen ulti, it's just like a free kill.
So now we'll actually have to see a Bengi impact synergy in a different kind of way. Not playing on their own lane, but just both trying to counter gank that ball lane with Leona. And it's incredibly difficult to play as Leona, especially if it happens once or twice. Afterwards, you'll be really scared going in the 3rd time.
All right, guys, final thoughts, Monty, as we are finished up with a quick sound issue?
Oh, yeah. No, I just want to say, and with the level 1, they got a really deep ward in there, even deeper than the usual Ozone ward that we see. So I'm looking forward to seeing how Najin Black Sword decides to play this, because they have a lot of information about where the lanes will be going from SK Telecom.
All right, guys, we are going to throw it back to the desk. Looks like we've sorted everything out on the stage. So let's send it back to the guys, the caster desk, for game 1.
Thanks a lot, Riv. And we are going to be getting into the game here just shortly. A little bit of a sound issue, all fixed now, so we can get things back underway. And interesting to hear the thoughts there. Probably going to be a very explosive start to this one.
I think a lot will be determined in the very early game, like they talked about before Shen hits level 6. But as Double Up is saying, if Lee Sin's right there when Leona goes in, then they have a good opportunity to turn around a gank. Watch knows this. So if Watch positions himself in one of the side bushes, then he can be there as well, turn into a 3v3.
So let's jump into game then. You can come back in a second, because we are going to get into game for this one and get things back underway. Very early stages still, just 1 minute on the clock.
It's going to depend on who can outthink their opponents in this one. The most difficult mind game possible. Both of these teams with very deep wards.
Also, after Najin Sword got their very deep ward that's going to see the lanes from SKT, they recalled straight from the jungle. So SKT did not see them exit.
It stands right now, SKT still on the invade, looking to set up a steal here on Sword's blue buff area. You can see the rest of Sword moving towards their lanes. They're going for that traditional 1-1-2 setup, and it doesn't look to be any sort of steal just yet. As I say that, Watch and Expression are moving towards the blue buff of SKT.
Right, it'll be a blue buff trade here. Bengi gonna be able to take off that purple side one. Meanwhile, Watch is going to answer. We'll have to see if Impact actually makes a choice to go check this blue buff, because a lot of top laners will go do that just so they can notify their jungler and make 100% sure where he's been going. They did see him move from that ward, though, at his red.
So blue buff taken then from both sides. We'll see what happens here in the early stage. We can see that Elise actually headed on towards that top side of the map. We'll see if Impact is going to be challenged by that. Actually not. He's going to walk over a ward as he goes over to the red. So a simple trade of the buffs coming in early in this one. We can see there, statistic for Impact, not a single death in the quarterfinals. He'll be looking to replicate that here today for sure.
Yeah, especially on a champion like Singed, who's so good at split pushing and making a difference in those team fights. As it stands right now, Expression has had a little bit more alone time in this lane and is out CSing Impact fairly well. I
really like what Sword are doing right now. They come out with a very unified strategy. All three lanes are trying to shove their minion wave. So they're getting this quick level advantage in their lanes, and they're forcing the jungler on SKT, Bengi, to make a choice. Which one is he going to go to first here? Even mid lane, Nagne is making use of that barrel to put Faker towards his turret.
Well, we did see that Bengi did go home fairly early on in this one. Going to come back in towards that mid lane with some wards. I'll give him that extra maneuverability around as well. But, well, as I say that, he just goes straight off to his wolves. He's going to continue farming exactly the same as what we're seeing here over on the other side for Sword, as Watch was just doing. Wow, those raids. Bit of a Valkyrie out there just to avoid that damage. Prey not wanting to get too deep.
Piglet and Pumandu making use of the range there on that Ezreal Zyra and just laying down the hurt onto Prey, completely disregarding Kayn for the time being. You see in the mid lane a little bit of poke going back and forth here between Faker and Nagne. And as it stands, both of these teams just trying to do the best they can to CS and SKT respond to the sort of lane pushing of Sword.
It's interesting because Expesin actually timed his recall with when he thought Bengi was going to be at his blue buff, which he got right. So he was out of danger there, but he didn't buy a ward on his back. He just picked up that Doran's Blade and the extra health potion.
See how well it works for him at this point in time. Got that crystalline floss to chug through any harass that Impact may lay down.
Expression actually, we saw his statistics there, extremely good win rate with this Jax. Obviously come back into favor recently with that Trinity Force doing so well for him. We'll see what kind of impact he can have here in that top lane. Watch is waiting around the mid, but honestly, we see that Faker's pretty much stuck on his own turret at this stage, so I'm not sure there's much of an opening there unless he can get around the back.
Yeah, both of the junglers looking to make something happen. Watch was sticking that mid lane. Bengi actually moved himself into the bottom, bushes, but as you could see, the lane was pushed heavily against Sword. Now, all of a sudden, Watch is coming down into the river. He's going to walk straight over a ward and may be able to get it. No, their pink ward's timed out, and that ward is going to stay standing. That is a massive swing there.
Unfortunate.
Yeah, that's huge. They were able to scare him off just long enough to save that ward's life. But look at the top. We have no ward coverage for either team up in that top lane, and neither jungler making move towards him.
Staying very far back from that one, especially in Impact. Just going at it at this point. 28-32 CS it is in that one. See here, Bengi continuing on his way. Watch will be doing the same on the other side as they almost mirror each other and take away those Wraith camps. We have seen the first back from the mid laners coming in as well. Double Doran's Ring coming out for Faker. The Chalice picked up for Nagne.
Nagne a little bit behind on the CS at level 6. We see Kayn. He does manage to get the Zenith Blade. He's jumped in. Pumandu's in trouble. You see Prey hammering down a Piglet, but now they turn it around. That's an arcane shift forward, and the exhaust is down. Kayn has been rooted in place.
Root going down, but Kayn still pretty healthy from this one. Half of his health still in there. Is he going to go back in? Zenith Blade actually missing from that one, but Prey taking a lot of damage. There was Watch as well, and he will get himself away from that mid lane. Bengi had already started to come around for cover.
That was really some beautiful kiting there by the bottom lane here. Pumandu and Piglet showing that they are not to be pushed around.
Kane right now taking a little bit more auto attack damage there from Pumandu, using that very long range Zyra to the best of his abilities. No summer spells blown. They've managed to catch Piglet. Prey's getting in. Barrier has been popped. Now Kane is in trouble. Piglet's out of mana though, and they trade back and forth. Barrier down for Prey. Piglet still both summoners up.
He still has his flash, but that means Kane is going to be all by himself at this turret. Very dangerous situation. They're making the call already for the roam from Pumandu up towards that river. Can they go for a 7-minute dragon here? With Lee Sin, they're going to try it.
They're going to go for this one. They've got 3 men there. We saw Faker starting to come down. He will just do his best to keep Nagne away with that barrel and stop him from getting in there for a potential steal. But there's no one around here from Najin Sword. This is going to be the first dragon of the semi-finals going over to SK Telecom T1.
Very well played by SKT. They're trading the tower the dragon damage between the champions, and actually not even using the Zyra plants to tank it up. You notice that Faker is level 6. Spirit Rush is available if they needed to get any escape, and there's actually a fair amount of mobility on the side of SKT, which we haven't touched on.
You really have to credit Faker there, though. With those wards that he bought from the mid lane, they did a good job clearing out the ward coverage. And because they had so many pinks around Dragon, they had the confidence to go for it. Watch had recalled up top lane, and SKT had no vision of him. So they just went for that move without even knowing where the enemy jungler was.
So Prey back into lane, got the workings of that phage, of course, working himself up to the Trinity Force. No real surprises on that front. On the other side, though, Piglet already got that phage in there. Nice little start for him. Is slightly behind in CS there, but it's so very early. Both of them in the lane. That's going to stay even as we go forward.
Well, Phage just completed the second you're talking about it. Joe Prey is going to come back to lane with very similar items, however, is that Sapphire Crystal down. So we're going to be seeing once again these two Trinity Force champions in the bottom lane. And I have to just mention that over the course of Worlds, Doublelift has been quite outspoken about Ezreal Triforce as opposed to Corki. He feels that Corki is a little bit stronger and has been mentioning it. We'll see how it works out for both of these AD carries. So we have hop back to mid lane. Faker does not have blue buff.
Yeah, a lot of damage actually dropped down there from Faker on towards Nagne. He'll just back away from that. Got that Crystalline Flask. He's able to chug straight on through. This top lane, again, no real visits from the junglers. Staying pretty quiet overall.
Speaking of Trinity Forces, you know, Jax is going to be working towards his very quickly here. And he's past that level 6 mark that Voyboy was talking about. That also means, though, that Shen has his Stand United. And if he's able to get the distance away from Expessen, to be able to use that, then he can turn something around in that bottom lane next time they go aggressive.
Well, watch right now up in this top lane. He does have that red buff available still, has not hit level 6. Expression has that option to land a stun, but Impact has got a massive amount of HP. Giant's Belt is up. He is going to get stunned in place as Expression continues to poke him down and harass him out. Can he pull Impact out? That's the question. Watch is still hanging around in those top bushes.
He was waiting for that one melee minion to be killed by Expression there to just be able to walk into the side lane bush. He's been undetected so far.
Oh, the cocoon does land. They've jumped on Impact.
Yeah, Impact having to flash away, but they're going to go in for this one. Impact's going to go down. First blood goes over to Najin Sword and Expression.
Meanwhile, bottom lane, Bengi's been setting up a good bush cake of his own.
There's the ultimate coming down. Mandu bursts down to almost nothing, but Bengi right on top. There's the kickback. Prey dives, but he takes one with him. And he's done well to get out of that in the way that he has.
It's not over.
Kane might not have the same. He's going to fall. Bengi picks up another one.
Oh, Kane sticking around there. He goes down now in the mid lane. Faker lands a charm. That one won't end up in a kill, though. Now we're at 2-2. If it hadn't been for Kane sticking around and going down there as well, I would have called that one in Najin Sword's favor. But they were able to shove the top lane. SKT coming out ahead in the bottom. Both teams going to lose out on those minions.
And the one thing you have to highlight from all 4 of those kills is that in Najin's Sword, it went to the AD carry and the top laner, whereas for SKT, it was the jungler and the support. So arguably better goal to be in the hands of the Sword players.
Now, in the past, when Bengi has been landing the last hits for these early kills, he goes straight into mobility boots and goes heavy vision. He spends a lot of his money on early oracles, early wards. He's doing pretty much the exact same thing here. He's already got those mobility boots, plus a sight stone and an extra vision.
So, Expression here, we saw him there just jumping in on towards Impact. He's not going to be that scared of him anymore with that Phage, with that Vamp Scepter in there as well. And we can see that he's already hammering away. Counter-Strike going to go off. Impact having to Shadow Dash his way off, but look at Expression dive straight back on top of him. Impact finds himself all of a sudden with just a third of his health left.
Faker right now coming up from the river. He has all of his summoners and his ultimate available. Expression's going to be in trouble as Faker has snuck up behind. There's no wards here for Expression, and just his spidey sense is tingling. He's backed away just in time as Bengi's now trying to set something up in the bottom lane.
I think he realized that lane pushed a little bit too far for him to be truly safe when the fact was Faker wasn't in that mid lane. Don't want to give that away. See here, Nagne and Watch actually moving through with a pink ward into the jungle of SKT. They're going to get themselves in position and gain some vision control and come down by the looks of it towards this bottom lane.
We'll see if they make their way down. They have decided to just back away a moment or two ago. We were getting excited about the prospect of a barrel knocking people out, but right now, this could be a two-man sword trying to set something up on Faker. Watch and Nagne just poising themselves. Mandu has managed to land the root on Kayn. Kayn's going to get caught by the Stranglethorns, thrown up into the air. Pumandu and Piglet are hammering away. That's a great solar flare, but it's not over yet as Piglet and Pumandu pick up the kill on Kayn.
Oh no, Kayn's sticking around again, but you got to shout out Pumandu for landing his snares right there. Again, more money towards this bottom lane. That kill going to the AD carry here for SKT, so Piglet gets his hand in the honey jar.
1-0-2 now. Piglet is 1-1-2 on the other side for Mandu. So let's see how that one works out. Expression still bullying Impact in this top side. Impact knows he can't really stand and bang with him at this point. Got the workings of that Sunfire K, but not quite up there, as we are going to see Expression coming in, but Bengi moving around the side. Here comes Watch as well. Cocoon lands on towards Bengi, and from what was a big scenario, turns into a little bit of damage and not much else.
Now, the one thing I definitely think that SKT need to keep their eyes on is the fact that Expression has basically 1v1 Impact several times over the last couple of minutes, and we'll have to see how SKT decide to respond to this. A Jax that gets farmed and is able to completely control his lane can become a monstrous split pusher in the mid to late game.
I think that's a really good point. Everyone thought the carry potential for Najin Sword was going to come all from this bottom lane, but Expression has himself in a very good spot. That being said, we're already 13 minutes in, and all the analysts were saying that Najin Sword had to make their moves very early. It's already SKT's gold lead here.
Well, problem right now is that Piglet has a bit of a keyboard issue, so you saw the admins on stage, they're just working to get us through that one. A working keyboard is always a bit of a bonus.
It's pretty important. It is pretty important. I know most of this is on the mouse, but you can't use any of Ezreal's skill shots if you're going to be using a broken keyboard.
That is definitely for sure. So that's going to get fixed up when we get back in. But that gives us, again, a little bit of time just to kind of break down where we're at this stage of it. 13 minutes in, 3-2 in kills over for SKT, and they have a nice 1,500 almost gold lead.
Right, so the kills have mostly been around the bottom lane where we thought they would be. Anytime you have a Leona, a lot of fights are going to break out. And we also had that one up top. There hasn't been much action mid lane here, and all the gold from these fights, top and bottom, have kind of washed out. Really, the gold lead for SKT is from the dragon that they got.
Yeah, I'm really happy you mentioned that, because it was such a good call on their part. They just shoved out Prey and Kayn from that bottom lane. They dealt some damage to them, and as soon as they backed away, it was just SKT saying, we have an uncontested dragon. There's no ways that they can challenge for this one. 7 minutes on the clock. It's one of the earliest that we've seen this tournament, and it was completely safe. I mean, there was no fault in that, the thinking in that strategy.
It was such a good job. They coordinated their aggression bottom lane. They were able to turn around a play that Kayn went in on and get them super low. Meanwhile, Faker had just backed with those 2 vision wards, or the 1 vision ward and 1 sight ward that we talked about, which enabled them to get control of that very early dragon area.
So what does Sword have to do here in this scenario? I mean, we know Leona's one of those champions that you have to go into, well, that's what Leona does, isn't it? If you fall behind, you can't really do that anymore. I mean, are they going to need to switch things around here?
Right now, at least Prey is post-level 6, so he has a bit of an easier time using missiles to farm or harass from a long range. But I think more of Najin's farm is going to be funneled over to Expression.
So here we go then, back into game. And as I said, 13 minutes on the clock. SK Telecom T1 have the lead right now.
Well, Expression is the man of the moment, I feel, for Sword. If he's able to really get rolling on the Grandmaster at Arms Jackson, maybe that could be their way back into this game. They are only 1,000 gold down, which is not a massive number right now, especially when you consider how well the entire Sword team scales.
It looks like they're making the call to put more of their attention with Expression up in that top lane too, because Watch has gone up there once again, even though Faker by himself taking that mid lane turret.
Yeah, first turret of the game going down there after almost 14 minutes of the game. Meanwhile, Expression still pushing this top lane out. Impact gonna shadow dash away, and this could be a turret right back in it for Sword.
So trading back and forth right now, able to scare Impact away. Wasn't gonna run the risk of the very strong tower dive potential of that Elise. All of a sudden though, SKT now realize they've got the chance on Dragon.
Banky doing a good job right there. They got themselves into position. Watch showing top means that they can just rush this Dragon down, even though they're fairly low health.
A little bit of a miss on the smite there, but when it's safe and
Watch
there's no one
in
around,
the top lane, so,
when there's no one around, but Expression and Watch haven't left the top lane. Expression's going to start hammering away on this tower. He's going to take a couple of turret hits, I think, actually. Didn't have landed yet. Now Impact is in trouble. They've left on him. Ignite's ticking. Expression picks up his second kill of the game. Piglet's going to secure a trade, at least with a tower on the bottom.
That's a huge kill for Expression because that's the one that they want to get rolling, but you're right, they answer here with the turret. So another objective for SKT, which is also going to open up this entire blue side, and we'll look for SKT to start warding up this Golem jungle of Najin Sword so they can then control the blue buff, keep that away from Nagne, and that will just increase the lead that Faker's got over him right now.
Yeah, we just saw that blue being given over there to Faker. Nagne does have his running in there as well. He just body slams away from most of the damage from Faker. One hit from his W landed. He's got that Athene's Unholy Grail now. Faker almost done with that DFG. He's probably got enough money for it right now even, and that's where he's going to get real scary.
We definitely see kind of a difference in styles here. Faker's known for just building and masteries and using his runes as well, all for offense. And he does not build too many defensive items very often. Already, he just finished his Deathfire Grass. The Cocoon does land here.
Ooh, they've caught him out. The barrel throws backwards. Pumandu forced to flash out. The Solar Flare comes down. Stand United is going to keep Pumandu alive as they turn the pressure back onto Watch. Now Watch is doing the best he can to get away. He manages to repel away from the taunt, but here comes Faker.
Kayn is dead in this one. He's not going to be able to escape it. Are they going to keep going for it though? Expression going to dive in. Here comes Prey from the side, and all of a sudden he gets a burst kill on towards Faker. Impact and begging. Nagne going deep. He's going to die from the tower. Piglet picks that one up in the end. A crazy fight. Ends in 3 for 2.
Man, dude just waited way too long. Way too close right there. But Faker uses his ultimate going in to answer so he can get another support kill. And that opened up Faker for counterplay right there. Really good job by Najin Sword pushing the objective after they get the one-man advantage.
Definitely having the numbers advantage. Here's a replay. Talk us through it, Kobe.
All right, so the ultimate was already been used by Nagne. At this point, Mandu needs to leave. His life has been saved, and Shen is just going to feel really bad right now. Oh, I saved you with my ulti, and now you walk back in to die. But Faker comes to answer. 2 uses of Spirit Rush right there already used up, so he only has 1 left and actually doesn't use it. Oh no, that was 3 already used, so he didn't have 1 left and had to burn the flash. Really good job here. And then Nagne, this is a 1-for-1 trade, but I like the style. He's going aggressive. He's not playing scared.
And it's definitely something that we haven't seen either of the mid laners doing up until that point. It had been a very passive sort of farming lane between Faker and Nagne. Nagne now 2-1-1. He's picked himself up a needlessly large rod, still yet to complete his boot. So we'll have to see if he gets caught a little bit out of position.
And Faker now has a blue elixir as well. So he's going huge power spike. He finished the early Deathfire Grass, and the extra ability power and cooldown reduction from that elixir is going to mean he has a huge amount of potential for making plays by...
We'll see if anyone falls prey to him in this one. As Watch here kind of just back away. We can see he does have that Oracles on. That was, by the way, unintentional, but worked out. Whatever. Hopefully for Sword, it won't be Prey that falls down. He's now 2-1-1 after picking up that kill earlier on, with that Trinity Force now finished as well.
Yeah, I'm happy you're pointing that out because there's actually 3 completed Trinity Forces in the game, as well as Prey going for the Sorcerer's Shoes. This is something that we've been seeing Corkis do all throughout the Worlds, is picking up those early Sorc boots and then going for the likes of a Last Whisper next, really getting lots of penetration to round out all of Corki's spells and auto-attack damage. Piglet, of course, also trying to pick himself up a Last Whisper, got that pickaxe and longsword already completed, and the lane's basically resetting. We'd seen SKT trying to set something up in the mid lane, but nobody from Sword was running into them.
Yeah, we see with the CS there as well, mid lane is pretty much bang even. Obviously Expression in that top side, 2 kills, 2 assists. Impact's died 3 times now, and obviously he's had a lot of time to spend free farming in that top side. But with that Trinity Force already done with Advanced Scepter, they've got to be so careful of this Jax now.
This Jax actually can handle Shen by himself at this moment, but to do that, he needs ward coverage very deep in that top side. And we've already seen an elixir picked up by Mandu. So Mandu is going to be clearing out this ward coverage that Expression needs to fully utilize his leverage that he has over Shen.
Right now, Prey and Piglet alone in lane. You can see both Pumandu and Kayn are roaming around the map. Expression's got himself that Bilgewater Cutlass completed, so going to be working towards that Blade of the Ruined King. And I don't feel like it's going to be possible for Impact to deal with Expression if they're going to come down to this 1v1 split push. So if SKT can pick fights and get that stand united while Expression's not there, that could be one way to bring themselves back into this game. Sword, only 700 gold down, as Dragon will be respawning in about 40 seconds.
See, watch there, just making sure that they've got the pinks in position as well. Of course, he can move around and take down wards of his own, but with 2 pinks now around this Dragon, they can hold it that little bit easier. And for SK Telecom T1, they need to get down there. They're going to contest for this next Dragon. 20 seconds to go until that one spawns. We see that Expression is starting to come down. Impact does have Stand United available, and Sword get ready to start off the Dragon on its spawn.
Well, 10 seconds left before that goes up. This is the first time Sword are going to be in range to even challenge for a Dragon. You can definitely see that they were just waiting for some time to ramp up, waiting for Jax and Corki to become impactful. However, because Expression has to run down to the lane, it's going to allow Impact to split push that top lane uncontested. SKT have grouped up as a 4-man on the bottom of this river. Dragon already secured. SKT thinking about going in, but they're going to have to commit deep if they want to, and they decide against it.
Now that the Dragon's down, they really do not want to pick that fight. All they want to do is try and slow Najin Sword down so that they can buy Shen time to try and answer up in that top lane. But he's not getting any work done on this turret, and the whole squad for Najin Sword is headed up there.
Yeah, we saw he was trying to get rid of those minions, didn't really have many of his own to deal with there while that Dragon was being taken out. And once he realizes that the rest of the team probably coming up here from Sword, he will recall back off to base. So that turret staying alive. That Dragon going unanswered, and we can see that the gold from that has really evened itself up now. Just about 150 the difference between them.
Yeah, very, very tense game between these two teams. Only a single kill separating them. A couple hundred gold, which is basically already spent in wards. And the only real difference, I think, between these two teams is in the top laners. And that Expression is just further ahead of Impact right now and is going to have a much larger effect on these team fights as and when they break out, especially when you consider the damage threats from SKT. There's a lot of pressure on Faker and Piglet to win the team fights basically on their shoulders. Bengi can clean up, but Impact's a tank.
If we even do get to team fights, because both of these teams have really high potential for picking people off in just small skirmishes. They've got Leona and Gragas over on Najin Sword side who can make plays from very long range. Meanwhile, SKT has Faker. So the ward coverage is going to do a huge part here, and whichever team can get that pick first is going to be the one dictating the next few minutes.
We can see that the teams know that. Look how many wards are down there. SKT got a complete line on the edge of their jungle on that bottom side of the river. See Sword just setting things up there. Leona, Elise, Gragas. A 3-man team that you don't want to face check against.
I also like how they've got Watch buying the Oracles here because Leona didn't do that great in lane. She needs her money.
Oh, here comes Faker. Solar Flare lands down. Expression's going to stun him up. They've turned it around. Watch it survive. Now they turn on to Pumandu, but he flashes away from the cast.
It's those picks that we were talking about. Faker was looking for his, but the Vision War, Najin Sword knew that they were going to go for that when they set this one up beautifully. Using them as bait, they were able to capitalize, just stacking all of their sons very, very well.
So, the turret now going to be under pressure. Bengi taking a lot of damage. True Shot Barrage actually flashing to Bengi. He's gone in there. Not sure that's the best decision. There is a Strangled Thorns. Will only hit Gragas as Kayn goes low, but it's a double kill for Expression here. Prey now having to flash away from that one. Piglet going to chase through. He's going to pick up that 1v1, and that is leaving us with a 3 for 3 here in the end.
Watch is still uncontested in this bottom lane. He should be able to pick this tower up though, and at the end of the day, picking up that objective is good for Sword.
But this means that SKT can run straight down the mid lane here. This is Ezreal with a double buff. They're going to be able to just melt through this turret. They're actually going to tank it even.
They are going to tank this one up. Impact feeling strong enough at this stage of things. Piglet just going to be hammering away on that one as Impact actually leaves him there for a little while. Minions do come back around and they've got something to tank that one up with. They need to be careful because Nagne is coming around the backside and sort of started to spawn it.
Nagne does have his ultimate, but he has to wait for the rest of his team to make his move. And SKT able to finish off the turret just before Najin Sword revive and get out to defend.
So Faker and the rest of SKT able to secure the blue buff steal there from Sword. And what we've seen from the two big team fights is that the first one, and Sword had enough members reinitiating as the team fight wore on that allowed them to pick up the victory. And in this fight, it was the reverse. SKT had more numbers coming in from the back line, and that allowed them to pick up those extra kills and that extra tower at the end of it.
That was some really decisive play from SKT after the fight, I have to say. Taking both of those objectives, just the difference of a matter of seconds would mean that Najin Sword could either defend the mid turret or the blue buff there, but SKT came out with both of those.
So another 2 minutes for a Dragon to be coming up. Last one went over towards Sword, and SKT didn't really say too much about that one. They were thinking about it, but didn't go in after it was already taken down. We'll see how that one is all going to face off. This time around, Bengi just doing the job of clearing out a couple of wards here around that mid lane.
Now, the one thing that I think SKT are going to be more aware of is that bait that they played with Watch clearing out the wards and Faker diving in. He should be aware now that Sword are going to be willing to play that death push, and they may not be able to pull the same trick off twice in a row.
And now the vision ward around Baron is starting off already. So both of these teams are going to have to use everything that they do have available to them, because we saw already how quickly you can even turn around a pick by either team.
So Shen up in that top side. Stan United is now back, and Sword, although they took that last Dragon, both teams having the timer on it, and they need to be careful that they don't show themselves here Sword down on that bottom side, because I'm not sure that SKT would have too many problems with just going straight in towards that Baron at this point.
I also want to note that this team for Najin Sword is a pretty risky team here. All of their pick potential relies on skill shots hitting. Leona's ultimate, although it's long range, isn't that easy to land dead on. Same thing for Gragas. If Gragas misses his ultimate, then they are at a huge deficit if SKT are able to force a fight right after.
Well, we'll see SKT securing that top lane tower. The Impact has taken himself a couple of minutes to actually get that one down. He does have that Sunfire Cape and the Spirit Visage completed, and we see that Prey is sort of mixing and matching his items there. He went for double long swords. He's actually sold one of his long swords, picked up a BF sword and that pickaxe there as well now. So, you know, double dipping a little bit on his items and hasn't worked his way towards anything solid. Piglet, on the other hand, getting very close to having that Bloodthirster completed with Dragon respawning. It looks like Sword are going to make their way down towards the pit.
I like how Sword are clearing out wards as well. When they had a single person go down, clear out the ward, they usually have 3 or so hiding in the Fogger ward, just so they can actually pull off that same play they pulled before.
A lot of pink wards being used there in that mid bush just to make sure that they've got the vision of any more that go down. Dragon here is down to less than half HP. Is going to be taken away here. Can they get around and pick up kills? Shen, the one knocked back here by the barrel. The stun going to go down onto him. Impact's going to fall from this one. He's trying to get away, but he will be finished off in the end here by Expression. That's just a 1-for-0, but Dragon went to Sword. And again, that 5v4 in middle, we'll see if they can do better with it this time.
Again, Najin Sword are being so decisive here. They just burn down the Dragon, even though Bengi landed his Q on it. And then Nagne uses his ultimate just on impact. Beautiful, beautiful capitalization.
And not only that, they've picked up another tower, so that evens it up at 4-4. There's only 600 gold separating these teams. Sword clearing out those wards as they continue to roam around the map. 15 seconds left on Impact to respawn. He does have his Stand United available, and Sword are going to be aware of that, so they're not going for any risky Baron play, but they're just making sure they've cleared out the vision, and they make SKT check. Ooh, True Shot Barrage almost coming in there for Piglet.
Yeah, that's what they got to be real careful of right now, making those risky plays, because the gold lead, even though it is over there with Sword, it's really not a lot at this point. It's the amount that can change so very quickly in just one pick, one bad engagement from Sword could throw them back behind from it. So I think we might see a bit more passive play here as we get a little bit of a farming phase going on again.
That's also why we saw Najin Sword right after they take that mid turret, they went immediately to clear out all the vision around Baron, because ward coverage in that top side of the map right now is an objective in itself.
Oh, see right now, Prey and Nagne pushing to this mid lane to try and shove the wave out. Some big items have been completed there. Nagne's got that death cap as well as another blasting wand in his pocket, while Faker's picked himself up a needlessly large rod. We'll see where he decides to go with that one. And another massive pickup for Expression. He's had that Blade of the Ruin King for a couple of minutes, but now he's getting some HP to back it up. Got himself a Giant's Belt as well. And you know, it's already incredibly difficult to take a Jax down, especially when he throws on his ultimate and gets all of those bonus defensive statistics. But with all that additional HP, it makes the problem even more difficult to deal with.
Notice how they aren't having Impact push side lanes anymore either, because he's very scared of that Jax finding him. So now they sort of turn to the point where they want impacts with the rest of the group, and then someone who's extremely mobile like Faker to go do split pushing. And then if Faker does meet up someone else 1 versus 1, they can have Shen ult from the rest of the group over to Faker and turn that into a 2 versus 1.
Yeah, I haven't really felt like Impact Stand Uniteds have been very meaningful this game thus far. We've seen 1 or 2 being used, but they haven't exactly completely turned the fight around. You know, in the mid lane earlier, Pumandu actually got saved by it, and they've stuck around a little bit longer to eat another barrel. And as it stands right now, Impact just doing the best he can to get even more tanky, is defending fairly deep in his own territory in the bottom lane, but Expression has backed away and gone to mid.
Got that line of wards in there for SKT as well. That's some nice juicy gold for Sword, should they head up on that side. See that SKT trying to hold their ground there. That pink ward gonna reveal them. There's the orb landing onto Kayn. The Charm not quite got the range to do that one. And there is Sword moving in to clear out pretty much everything that SKT have been paying to put down.
And in the last couple of minutes there, we see that Infinity Edges have been picked up by both Prey and Piglet. So they've got another big spike in damage. And Piglet really cleaned up after that last fight in the middle lane. And, you know, Sword are going to have to try and take him out. Bengi looking for something in this mid, has managed to catch out Kayn. Cocoon lands, that's a flash over the wall for Watch. Now Kayn has re-engaged. The Solar Flare locks down Faker, Stranglethorns throws him up in the air. They've traded 1 for 1.
1 for 1, but Mandu surely will fall. Actually managing to walk away for now with Ignite ticking. There's a double, the barrel coming down. Now Expression going very low. Mandu will finish that one off with his passive, but there is another barrel coming in. Nagne picks up the triple. They're going to keep chasing here, but do they have the damage? Prey going over towards Bengi. Bengi will walk away for now. They chase down Impact off to the side. Nagne going to keep track of him here. Is he going to be able to hold it off? There's the belly slam and the barrel. Nagne cleaning up.
And Nagne comes up huge for Najin Sword. Who would have thought he was the one going to pick up the rest of these kills? They also are able to get onto this inhibitor turret here.
I'll take a look at this. They're bashing away. Nagne with that bonus AD from the Drunken Rangers. Surely going to be able to pick us up. Bengi wants to play with Prey. There's no mana here for him. The barrel's going to knock Bengi backwards. The tower still standing, and Bengi sneaks away. He saves the tower, even though it's on low HP.
So good pressure put down from him there to keep that one safe, but SKT are going to be losing their blue. Let's have a look at that fight again.
All right, so right here, we're going to see Kayn go right back in and engage. He lands the double stun onto Faker into the Nagne ultimate to just explode Faker. Pumandu, once again, he walks back into another barrel. This is just tough break for him. But again, the stun here comes out from Expression. They're able to get the tanks away from Piglet, and another barrel from Nagne. He is just on point that entire fight. He actually gets 1 more after that as well.
So amazing here from Nagne. We heard in that video before the game, you know, a lot of changes being made here for Sword. Looking very, very good for them right now, though. Nagne currently sat at 6-1-3 on this Gragas.
Yeah, you've seen Bengi there moving towards that Baron pit, dropping a whole bunch of pink wards as they move along. And look how many pink wards there are in the inventories of both of these teams. It's definitely something to keep note of. 33 minutes on the clock, and with that mid-inhibitor turret sitting so incredibly low, Sword see a juicy target. Most of the ultimates are available. In fact, all of them are here for Sword, and they're looking to siege up this lane, especially with Prey having blue buff. That's going to be missiles for days.
Also, a really interesting point about Corki nowadays is that cooldown reduction helps him out so much. His missile spam actually gets the attack animation of it. The spell animation is quicker, and the recharge is quicker when he has cooldown reduction. So not only the mana regen, but that CDR from Blue Buff really helps him out.
Let's see if they can push through this line of defense that SKT are trying to set up from this one. And in the end, Sword start to back away. They've gone over towards Baron. Are they going to be able to lure SKT in?
Yeah, and something you've got to remember about Baron is that with Jax on the side, if you've got 1 or 2 more people in there, it's very easy. We do see in the mid lane, they have caught up Bengi. The barrel throws him back because they've jumped on. He flashes over the wall, Stand United on his backarm, but that is the ultimate down. Impact is not going to be able to impact the fight later without Stand United.
Stand United's a much longer cooldown than the Gragas ultimate here from Nagne, so that's a great trade for them. They got a huge win right there, and they can continue to force SKT into a dangerous situation because Kayn still has his spells all available.
Oh, this is a dangerous time for SKT. Just one jump over the wall, which pretty much everyone can do on that team as well. That's the danger of that one. Prey just coming around the side as well. There are a few pink wards being put down now to clear out here for SKT. There's a Cocoon landing though. He will Shadow Dash away. Expression decides not to keep going.
Oh, that was very, very scary. No other CC followed up from the Cocoon, and Impact manages to get away with his life. About a third of that Stand United has come available as the Dragon has respawned. Sword aren't necessarily in a position to try and force a fight around it, because I think the focus on both of these teams is definitely on the northern part of the map around the Baron Pit.
It is very dangerous for either team to go for that Dragon. Neither one actually has vision right now though, so they could burn it down very quickly.
I mean, he focuses straight on towards Bengi. The slow comes down. Expression starts to back away, and SKT have held them off.
Great play there by Expression, pulling the gun before anybody from SKT could do that, forcing out the members of SK Telecom. Now Sword, with a little bit of a numbers advantage, they didn't use any of their important abilities during that previous fight. Randians wasn't popped, Blade wasn't popped, and now Sword are going to start trying to get on the second inhibitor here. Prey has been caught by the Sonic Wave. Bengi plays this one safely, decides not to go in. Keep your eyes on Pumandu because he might just get popped. There are minions doing work for Sword in the bottom lane. They may be able to get that tower.
They can play it very carefully right now, as long as they just wait around, get one Trinity Force procced attack from Corki off onto that inhibitor every few seconds, then they can slowly whittle it down. But now with Baron coming up, they can actually run this down very fast, because that Jax with the Trinity Force plus Blade of the Ruined King, so much extra damage coming in.
Tower's gone. Baron started here for Sword, and SKT, sadly enough for them, they're nowhere near this one. This is going to be the second Baron of the game going over to Sword. Nothing that SKT can do about it, and it just gets harder here once again.
Prey is going to delay that push a little bit because he wants the red buff, but they're going to go straight back to the Explode Inhibitor.
And they extend that gold lead even further and get that regenerative stats and all of the bonus attack damage and ability power that we've been talking about. Watch on Elise right now. 008 has yet to die, has been involved in 50% of his team's kills. Now the team and the rest of Sword have stacked up in this Exposed Inhibitor like we were talking about. They're going to have a full-on 5v5 Expression hanging out right in front of Impact and just taunting him, just daring him to pick a fight. You can see Prey does have flash available. The taunt comes out, he sidesteps it, in goes Faker. Nagne does manage to get off that Zhonya's Hourglass. He's alive before he gets kicked back into the fight. That is a massive toss. It knocks everyone from SKT aside, and the rest of Sword are on the inhibitor.
Piglet here getting caught up. They're going to lock him down. Flash comes in from him. Piglet, Mandu, and Impact, the last 3 men alive here. Sword managed to take down the inhib. They may try and close out this first game right here.
SKT were the ones that finally were able to initiate there, but Nagne with the Zhonya is able to stay alive and get his ulti off.
A massive ultimate that was knocking everyone from SKT aside. Sword have a 5 versus 3 here for another 40 seconds. Cleanse comes out there from Prey using their Quicksilver Sash. They're trying to focus down Impact. Tower has fallen. There's only one tower standing on before the Nexus here for SK Telecom. Sword are going to pick up game 1 in the series.
Great win from them. They force it through there in the end. And we said it before, SKT not the best starters generally in these best of 5 situations. Sword